When Home Improvement concluded, Richard K. took an odd turn. My sister rings up from Seattle and says, "Rick, I understand you're playing with Bob Hope." I respond, No, I'm playing in the Bob Hope, which is very cool." The actor who portrayed trustworthy Al Borland went on to anchor game shows. Then he appeared in an outrageous R-rated comedy. He later presided over a soap opera trial. In 2019, he appeared on Pen 15, a show about uncomfortable teenagers, as a father. Ka shocked followers once more just when they believed they knew him. His journey following home renovation was everything but typical. Richard Ka was born on February 17, 1956, in Seattle. Prior to becoming a contractor, his father, Gene, served as a Navy CB during World War II. Louise, his mother, was a painter. Together, they brought up Richard and his sister Sue in a home filled with Husky football, art, and tools. Richard was transformed in ways no one could have predicted by that combination of practical experience and inventiveness. It would all make sense years later, particularly when he turned into the amiable handyman on Home Improvement, Al Borland. In 5th grade, Richard developed a passion for acting. Something clicked when he took the stage for the first time. He continued to play football and perform into his 60s. He started as a wide receiver in high school. He carried that harmony of drama, athletics, and balance throughout the early 1970s. His talent began to shine in Roosevelt High. His theatrical teachers immediately noticed his presence and deep, gritty voice. He performed in school productions, including My Fair Lady as Henry Higgins. Acting felt like a purpose, while football was enjoyable. Later on, he made a joke about how college-level athletics were a few levels above my pay grade. He was accepted to the University of Washington after high school. He had the opportunity to spend 6 months in Scotland during his first year. It wasn't a holiday, it was labor. The largest European arts festival, the Edinburgh Festival, served as his training ground. He studied everything from Shakespeare to experimental theater, performed alongside students from all over the world, and picked up new styles. He raised his sights when he returned. He applied to the school's professional actor training program the following year. 200 people applied. Only 12 were admitted. He sliced it. It was serious from that point on. He joined the fraternity Beta Theta Pi, performed in more than 15 plays, and maintained a GPA of 3.4 while in college. He portrayed Henry Higgins once more, mastering both traditional and contemporary parts. He wasn't merely aspiring to be an actor. By the time he graduated in 1979, he was prepared to experience it. He relocated to New York City immediately following graduation. He was able to secure a Michelob beer commercial that was shown during the Super Bowl in just 1 week. He made $45,000 with that commercial. Money wasn't the only thing involved. It provided him with publicity during the most viewed television event. Most performers don't have that type of luck, but for Richard, it was a sign he was headed in the right direction. Then a minor but odd issue arose. He was informed that the name Richard Wilson was already taken when he attempted to join the Screen Actors Guild. He had to decide on a new name for his career. Thus, he chose his middle name, Ka. Richard Ka was born again, but this time it was on paper, and it stuck. Wilson would never again be called that by anyone outside his family. A new name and the Super Bowl commercial didn't guarantee success. Richard worked in theaters across the nation from 1980 to 1989. He appeared in at least 25 plays. Sometimes he was compensated, and other times he wasn't. He portrayed a real suit of armor in Me and My Girl on Broadway. He was more successful off-Broadway, winning larger roles and gaining recognition in the theater industry. Red carpets and celebrity were not the beginning of Richard Ka and Tootie Roche's romance. 6 years before the world ever recognized him as Home Improvement's Al Borland, it began subtly in 1985. Tootie was more than just his wife. She followed her own way as a singer and actress. She was born in San Angelo, Texas, on July 19, 1955. And everything changed in 1989 because of her suggestion. They ought to relocate to Los Angeles, she advised Richard. She thought he was capable. He had faith in her. They took the chance and packed their luggage. It wasn't an easy start. They lacked employment, money, and assurances. Whatever work he could find, Richard grabbed it. Just to have a place to reside, he oversaw an apartment complex. To cover the expenses, he also provided catering for events at a nearby synagogue. He had attended the University of Washington to train as an actor. He had played in Scotland at the Edinburgh Festival. Despite this, he was working odd jobs in the hopes of getting a break. He had been fortunate enough to land a Michelob beer commercial in his first week in New York years prior. During Super Bowl 14 it was broadcast. But that was a long time ago. They were still having difficulties in 1990. Then, the moment that no one could have foreseen arrived. In Los Angeles, Richard ran a stop sign in 1991. He was stopped over and given a ticket by a traffic cop. He had to go to traffic school as a punishment. Frustrated, he took a seat in class. However, a Hollywood agent was standing next to him. They struck up a conversation. A new TV show was mentioned by the agent. Tim Allen, a stand-up comedian, was scheduled to star. Home Improvement was the name of the program. Richard should try out, the agency advised. The pivotal moment was the traffic infraction. Richard went to try out. He didn't think it would be very successful. Al Borland's part was already filled. The initial selection was Stephen Tobolowsky. Tobolowsky, however, had other obligations. He was unable to get the pilot to fire. A backup was required by the makers. The call came to Richard. He only appeared in one episode. However, something occurred on the set. It was impossible to overlook his chemistry with Tim Allen. The network and producers took notice, and when ABC decided to pick up the show, they chose to keep Richard rather than bring Stephen back. Richard suddenly changed his name to Al Borland. Originally, he was only expected to complete 6 episodes. That was the strategy. Fans, however, adored him. Tim Allen's turmoil was the ideal complement to his steady, dependable personality. Richard took ownership of the role. In every scene, he added warmth, humor, and nuanced genius. Richard was later described by Tim Allen as one of the smartest and funniest men he had ever worked with. The producers concurred. He became a permanent cast member when they shattered the short-term plan. Richard Karn made no effort to fit the mold the casting directors had in mind. Rather, he transformed the part into something more authentic and personal. Tim Allen's pandemonium was counterbalanced by his cool, collected demeanor with Al. The magic was not instantaneous. Ka continued to gradually develop the character, while Al was still finding his voice in the early episodes. Al's weary sigh, which is typically directed at Tim's most recent mishap, has gained popularity by episode 12. In order for Ka to accomplish it, the authors even began to include extra scenes. Fans loved it. Letters from people who saw themselves in Al began to come in by the middle of 1992. He was intelligent, kind, and always in charge. The flannel appeared even after he was made fun of for his mother, his weight, or his beard. TV history was shaped by Al's plaid shirts. The clothes were remembered by viewers, rather than merely being noticed. They were unaware that throughout the years, Ka had chosen over 75 distinct flannel patterns. In order to avoid repeating one too frequently, he even maintained a personal catalog. The costume crew found it difficult to keep up. By season 3, they had agreements with 3 producers who were producing flannel specifically for Al. Additionally, J.C. Penney sold out of a special line called Al's Plaids during Christmas 1994. The shirts weren't just made of fabric. They served as a metaphor. Ka demanded that they be made of genuine, thick cotton, even if it meant perspiring in the intense heat. He remained true to his beliefs. He maintained the beard's ideal shape for the same reason. Even if it took 20 minutes each morning, it demonstrated that Al was the type of person who paid attention to the small details. Ka wasn't leading a glamorous Hollywood life off-screen. He was fixing toilets in real life, while millions watched him fix things on Tool Time. Ka oversaw a 32-unit apartment complex in Los Angeles during the first season, which ran from September 1991 to May 1992. 6:00 a.m. would be his wake-up time to handle requests for repair, then arrive in the studio by 9. Some occupants were unaware that their building manager was turning into a celebrity. He once returned to the set in uniform after taking a break for lunch to deal with a plumbing problem. The narrative was so well received by the writers that it was made into an episode. Ka would manage rental documents and scripts in his dressing room even during filming. Al Borland had an advantage because of his real-world experience. Ka was aware of the characteristics of a true repairman. He explained things, used tools, and made gestures based on his own experience. Amidst all of this, his world was being altered by something even more significant. Cooper K. Wilson, his son, was born. Although Richard and Tootie Roach had been wed since 1985, they had never had children. Cooper entered their lives just as the trend of home improvement was taking off. Ka arrived at work looking worn out. Diapers, Early call times and late-night feedings don't go well together. The authors took note and started to write about Al with a softer, more nuanced weariness, as if he were a man who understood what it was like to take care of a little one. In his dressing area, Ka kept a photo album that was often updated with new images of Cooper. The infant came to the set 17 times in season 2. Tim Allen even made a joke about him being hired as a junior assistant by Tool Time. Richard was busy outside the studio too. He established the Richard K. Star Days, a celebrity golf competition in Seattle in 1993. It started off as a tiny one-day event with 12 stars, but by 1996 it had grown to a 3-day celebration. Dinners, auctions, golf, and autographs. Over $4.2 million was raised for children's hospitals over its run till 1999. Approximately 30 to 40 celebrities appeared each year. A few came from home renovation. Others were famous athletes. The money wasn't the only factor. It was about actually helping people. And it was successful. Richard spent a lot of time with Pamela Anderson after returning to the set. She portrayed the original Tool girl, Lisa. When the show started, she was just 23. And Richard helped her get settled because he was the kind of guy he was. Together, they practiced. He gave her timing assistance. Her vivacious energy on screen blended in wonderfully with his methodical approach. She left for Baywatch after only staying till 1993. But those early seasons were shaped in part by her time on the show. Richard played a significant role in that. Al Borland evolved over the course of 8 seasons. He was more than simply the plaid-clad dude. He had a history. He was driven insane by his mother. Awkward encounters. I wish you luck in love. Al-focused episodes were receiving 2 to 3% more viewers than the others by 1996. His admirers adored him. The writers offered him extra because, in reality, his fan mail tripled from season 1 to season 5. By season 8, Tim and Al shared ownership of Harry's hardware. He was no longer merely a sidekick. He had a partner. Al also stood by Tim for their last Tool Time episode in 1999 as the show came to an end. Richard wrote a book that year, for somewhat less than 3 times the first offer. It was titled, House Broken: How I Remodeled My Home. It was released in April, right as home improvement was coming to an end. There was no better time to do it. Immediately after its release, 75,000 copies of the book were sold. For a brief period, it even made the New York Times bestseller list. Richard told anecdotes about renovating his actual home inside, tales that had a striking resemblance to the show's episodes. Some chapters dealt with working with contractors, similar to the ones he and Tim used for the event. And there were 32 pictures. His sarcastic wit was still present in the writing. He didn't strive to appear more intelligent than he actually was. He simply described what transpired. Ka began playing minor parts after the show ended. He appeared in films such as MVP, Most Vertical Primate 2001, and Legend of the Mummy 1998. Additionally, he appeared as a guest star on programs such as The Chronicle and That 70s Show. Although it wasn't steady, the work wasn't horrible either. In 1989, Ka relocated to Los Angeles because his wife, Tootie, had faith in him. However, it appeared that Hollywood was unsure on what to do with him by 2002. Then, an unforeseen event occurred. On Family Feud, a place became available. A fresh host was required by the producers. There was no Louis Anderson. Richard K., who wasn't a comic like the previous hosts, was hired. Despite his lack of ostentation, he was affable, polite, and easy to like. That was important. He was only the fourth host in the history of the show, following Louis Anderson, Ray Combs, and Richard Dawson. The show didn't feel the same to him. Although he made families feel at ease, he didn't always get the jokes right, and critics took notice. The audience had faith in him. Approximately 4 million people watched the show every day when he was on it. He sustained Family Feud during a difficult period of change. Ka did something completely unexpected the same year. He had an appearance in the music video for the indie rock band The Strokes on August 5, 2002. Someday was the name of the song. The Strokes faced off against Guided by Voices in the video's Family Feud. Ka pretended to be the host. It was crazy. Rock icons like Slash, Duff McKagan, and Matt Sorum from Guns N' Roses were even featured in the video. In the end, this odd combination of rock music and daytime television worked. One day, it became popular. It peaked at number 27 in the UK and number 17 in the US Modern Rock chart. It later came in at number 53 on Pitchfork's list of the 2000's top 200 songs. After 4 consecutive years, Ka resigned as host of Family Feud in 2006. John O'Hurley was hired because he introduced a more sophisticated, conventional game show style. According to some critics, O'Hurley sounded and looked like he was manufactured in a factory just to host television programs. Ka didn't vanish, even though his time was over. On October 6, 2008, Richard Ka's hosting career took a dramatic change. He took over as Bingo America's host at that point, taking Patrick Duffy's place. The second season of the Game Show Network program was about to premiere. Duffy had been known for his flat style. Some even claimed that he seemed to have expended all of his energy powering the bingo sphere. GSN made it plain that Ka provided the enthusiasm they desired while still trying to be courteous and stating that Duffy was fantastic. He arrived boisterous, animated, and charming. He was joined by Diane Mazzotta as a new co-host. Additionally, the bonus round was completely revamped. Everything appeared to be going well for a time. But in 2009, the show abruptly ended after 105 episodes. The odd thing was that they had already had a third season's auditions. While scripts were being created, things took a different turn. David Goldhill, the president of GSN, made some significant adjustments. Fans of game shows in particular disapproved of his choices. The show was permanently destroyed by that shift of perspective. Then something unexpected happened. The rage was subdued in 2011 when Richard Ka appeared in the film Pool Boy. It was the complete reverse of all he had ever done. No safe laughter, no family-friendly appeal. This comedy, which had a R rating, was crazy and strange. In a movie that parodied war films and filmmaking in general, KN portrayed a character named Bill Witherspoon. It was a crazy plot. A man in California cleans swimming pools after returning from combat. The entire event was a satire. It featured Kevin Sorbo and Danny Joe, even a phony Hitler. The film was immediately released on DVD on July 22, 2011. But since it was so extravagant, it developed a cult following. Ka was aware of the joke and leaned into it, so it was like him saying, "I'm not just the safe guy from TV." Ka and Tim Allen got back together in January 2013, 2 years later. Home Improvement had been gone for nearly 14 years. They were reunited now, but on Last Man Standing. Ka portrayed Bill McKendry, an architect. Mike Baxter was portrayed by Allen. It was no coincidence. In Sweep Sweep, it was broadcast. An overwhelming sense of nostalgia struck viewers. Things became emotional on set. They weren't simply older, they had expanded. By that time, Ka had even hosted Family Feud for 4 years. The authors winked at the fans. Allen's mid-sentence was once corrected by Ka's character. Just that reminded me of Tim Taylor and Al Borland. The audience adored it. A milder transition followed. Richard Karn gained popularity in Hallmark Christmas films from 2014 to 2015. He portrayed Mason Richards, a businessman attempting to purchase a mystical tree farm. In the 2015 Christmasland film, there was romance, snow, family, and tons of lights in this timeless Hallmark film. Ka was at home. Luke McFarland and Maureen McCormack performed supporting parts while he played opposite Nikki Dilo. The movie, which was primarily filmed in Pioneer Village, Utah, performed well. Over 80 million people watched Paul Mark over the holidays. Ka joined in on that custom. Additionally, he starred in A Perfect Christmas List in 2014 and Check Into Christmas in 2019. He portrayed Tim on both occasions. Richard Karn shocked everyone by entering the soap opera industry in May 2017. He played Judge John Oppinger on The Bold and the Beautiful. Even though there were only 2 episodes, there was a lot of buzz. Fans of Home Improvement and the show were incredulous. He presided over a case in which Sally Spectra was charged with dress design theft. It sounded dramatic, and it was. Ka did more than simply appear and read lines. He got ready. To get the part perfect, he spent 3 days in Los Angeles following a real judge. 15 years for the crime, he said, or perhaps 3 or 5, if the offender behaves well. It felt authentic because of him. The producers wanted him in 5 episodes since they liked him so much. But he only performed 2 because of scheduling conflicts. Then came 2021. Although Ko had closed many doors, it had also created new ones. At that point, Ka and Tim Allen got back together for the History Channel's Assembly Required. It wasn't made up. The show was a true competition. People built and fixed things from the comfort of their own homes. Tight COVID regulations were followed when filming the entire event. They didn't choose anyone at random. 137 remote auditions were conducted. The old Alan Kay chemistry was revived by the show. Ka was still composed and intelligent, and Tim was still the boisterous one. When April Wilkerson joined them, she added a contemporary flair. The show was a success. People in the 35-49 age range particularly enjoyed it, most likely because it brought up memories of Tool time. Ka was more than simply a co-host, though. He also served as the executive producer. He had never had that type of power before. He assisted in selecting the competitors. He contributed to the challenge's design. He even contributed to the show's appearance. Like his Al Borland character, he advocated for tool safety segments. It wasn't simple. In order to maintain fairness, they had to ship the same tools to everyone. It was messy to film during a pandemic. Ka, however, kept things going. Tim Allen even claimed that Ka's preparation kept things together. They weren't finished yet either. Another show was launched in June 2022. The name of this one was More Power. The History Channel also carried it. The 10 episodes focused entirely on the history of tools. They visited factories and workshops all throughout the United States and shot it at Allen's own workshop. One type of instrument from antiquity to the present was the subject of each episode. Fun and information were mixed together. April Wilkerson also returned. She worked with her hands. The energy was Tim. The history was given by Ka. It was successful. 1.42 million people watched the first episode. It was the best unscripted debut for the History Channel since 2019. On Home Improvement, Richard Karn was formerly known as the quiet, plaid-wearing Al Borland. However, something unexpected occurred in 2019. He became a member of Pen 15, an odd and excruciatingly humorous show. He wasn't offering tool recommendations or repairing sinks. Rather, he portrayed Fred Peters, a serene elderly performer who went on tour with a cover band of Steely Dan. The twist: in front of real teenagers, the program featured two adult ladies posing as 13-year-olds. It seemed strange, but it did the trick. The program received Emmy nominations, including one for Outstanding Comedy Series, and Ka starred in 11 episodes between 2019 and 2021. Ka was new to the younger generation of Gen Z viewers. It was like watching an old buddy enter a new world for millennials. He blended right in somehow. Then the pandemic struck. Ka didn't slow down, but Hollywood did. He appeared in the love story Horse Camp in 2020. He portrayed a reserved ranch hand who was too shy to express his emotions in a family movie. Teen campers attempted to give him courage. He appeared in The Christmas Dance in December 2021, a year later. IMDb gave the film a mere 4.7 out of 10. However, Ka made a story about Christmas, healing, and sadness more relatable. Even low-budget films felt more comfortable with his usual presence. Fans then took a second look in November 2024. Ka appeared thin, really thin. He had lost 30 pounds at the age of 68. He made no effort to conceal it. This wasn't the same round-faced guy from the Nines, he told Fox News, and I went down to where my doctor was very, very happy. I almost felt like I looked too thin. People were shocked. Ka said that the weight gain started when food was abundant during his sitcom years. However, those times had long since passed. He now adhered to a rigorous strategy with his wife, Tootie Roach. 4 ounces of veggies, 4 ounces of meat, and very few carbohydrates. Each meal was measured. Each mouthful was deliberate. Ka gradually weaned herself off of the rigorous diet by April 2025. He returned a small amount of weight, just enough to make himself feel at ease. He made jokes about dessert as well. Take 1 bite instead of 5. He started doing Pilates as well. It wasn't purely aesthetic. His golf swing improved as a result of his hips becoming stronger. This change was more than just a physical one for Ka. Control, health, and becoming a better version of himself were the main concerns. And Ka made another surprising move, right when everyone thought they had seen it all. On National Do-It-Yourself Day, April 3, 2025, he was featured in a new beer advertisement. Natural Light, though, not just any beer. He didn't sell high-end craft beers. Leaning heavily on his Alborand image, he served as their craft ambassador. A $10,000 reward was up for grabs to help someone transform their garage into their ideal workspace. It was shrewd, it was sentimental, it was amusing, and it was successful. The campaign received over 500,000 social media reactions in only the first week. Executives acknowledged that study was the source of the idea. Natty Light offered them the ideal pitchman because their customers enjoy do-it-yourself projects. A man in a tool belt who used to stand next to Tim Allen is now in a garage with a beer and tells you to fix something before you relax. It was not about altering Ka's identity. It was about convincing them that he still had something fresh to give, and reminded them of the reasons they initially admired him.